The First Glimpse of Nirvana by George Sidney Arundale, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. This piece is an extract from George Sidney Arundale's book Nirvana, A Study in Synthetic Consciousness. The First Glimpse of Nirvana. This piece begins with a quote from Wordsworth's The Prelude, Book 4. Magnificent the morning rose, in memorable pomp, glorious as I e'er had beheld. In front the sea lay laughing at a distance, near the solid mountains shone, bright as the clouds, green-tinctured, drenched in Empyrean light, and in the meadows and the lower grounds was all the sweetness of a common dawn, dews, vapours, and the melody of birds, and the labourers going forth to till the fields. Ah, I say, dear friend, that to the brim my heart was full. I made no vows, but vows were then made for me. Bond unknown to me was given, that I should be, else sinning greatly, a dedicated spirit. On I walked, in thankful blessedness, which yet survives. My first remembrance is of seeing the Master K.H. Those who have undergone occult training are aware how supremely magnificent as a teacher is this great Master. He is, of course, a high official in the world's education department, and apprentices from all departments have the honour to come under his inspiring guidance. I myself have had this honour, and although I do not belong to the education department, I still have the inestimable privilege of his gracious guidance. It was a great joy to me to enter the new pathway under the benevolent watchfulness of this gracious friend, to whom I owe so much. I remember my first glimpse of the buddhic plane on the occasion of admission to the ranks of the Great White Brotherhood. I recall to this day my marvelling at the vision of the Master in his buddhic vehicle, and well do I remember in the days that followed the wondrous sense of unity with all things, with the trees and flowers, feeling with them all, growing with them and in them, suffering and rejoicing in and with them. I remember too the casting off of the friend of ages, the causal body, and I remember a vivid, rending contrast between the moment before and the moment after the glimpse into the new kingdom. I remember how it was as if from out the sunshine I had suddenly entered a dark tunnel, and with a seemingly unending vista of blackness stretching infinitely far into a limitless beyond. Was there light at the end? I could see none. Must this blackness last forever? Well, be that as it may, I must enter this tunnel, for I can do no other, to quote the words of Luther. Darkness enfolds me, blackness permeates me. Shall I never again know the light? Yet I look forward and press onwards, and at last the tunnel ends, the blackness vanishes, and I step into a light more glorious by far than the light I left. I had to let go the light I knew in order that I might enter into a light more real. It seems to be ever thus. That which we are ready to let go, to lose, we find unto life eternal. In the occultist there must be a spirit of daring, of adventure, of eagerness to risk. He must be willing to let the lesser go before he has grasped the greater. And in the interspace there is a momentary loneliness which must be borne happily and joyfully, for it is in loneliness that is born the power to strive, the strength to sustain and to protect. Those who cannot endure loneliness are not yet ready to be moulded into leaders of men. But today the Master seems to me as one whom I have never known before, robed in the glories of a kingdom I am entering as a little child. The new consciousness enfolds me, and in a moment my world is full of new, strange, glorious values. All is different, supremely different, though the same. A new divinity is open to my eyes, and unfolds to my gaze a new meaning, a new purpose. It is the buddhic unity transcended, glorified, a more marvellous unity. In some wonderful way it is merged in a state vaster and more tremendous. There is something even more true than the truth in the unity I have so far known, something more real. It seems impossible, and yet it is so. What is the nature of that of which even buddhic glory is but a limitation? I must use words, and words seem a terrible anticlimax. I can only say it is the glory of a light transcendent, a world of light which is the image of God's own eternity. Face to face do I seem to be with an unspotted mirror of power and with an image of goodness. And the mirror, the image, is an endless ocean of light in which I once again become, though in one sense I already have been, merged by an apotheosis of at-one-ments on plane after plane below. It is another baptism, another immersion into the waters of the real. At every stage of growth a baptism, to be succeeded by a confirmation, to be followed some day by an ordination, a consecration too, because of an identification, whether complete or not, with the higher self. Brotherhood in the outer world, unity in the buddhic world, light transcendent in Nirvana. And if on the threshold I am transported by its glory, how shall it be when I begin to ascend to the summit? Description falters even before this first lifting of the veil. Thought and feeling distort and narrow infinitely. At best one can but suggest and hint. The rest is a matter of individual, incommunicable experience. This light transcendent is even nearer to the real than the buddhic unity which hitherto had seemed the most stupendous fact in all the world. Light the beginning, light the path, light the future. God said, according to the Christian Bible, "Let there be light," and there was and is light indescribable. Beautiful as is the light in the world, it is but the faint and feeble image of the light triumphant. The adjective somehow seems inappropriate of these regions of the real. It is the sun-light of the sun, ere it descends into the forms in which we know it. It is light purified of form. It is light which is the life of form. It is an ever-present intimation of immortality, a future within the now, and thus eternal. It is an I do not say thee, apotheosis and essence of the light we know. All the glory of the most wonderful dawn, and one feels nothing can be more wonderful than a perfect eastern dawn, is brought to glorious fruition and splendid perfection in that eternal noonday which is Nirvana. The glory of the buddhic plane is but the dawning of a nirvanic day. Yet, as I write these words, I remember knowing, as I stood awestruck upon the threshold of Nirvana, that beyond even that, to me, supreme unfoldment lay unfathomable, immeasurable splendours, to which Nirvana itself, the noonday of the buddhic dawning, is but a dawn, a promise, a shadow. I could sense this. I had to sense it to preserve my balance. I must hold fast to proportion even in these stupendous regions. That unity could be transcended, I knew, for was not the light glory before my eyes? But there is more even than light glory. Some day in the far-off future I shall know a glory that is even more than the glory of light. I call this light of Nirvana the noonday of the buddhic dawn. But it is only noonday because for the time being it represents the utmost capacity of my consciousness. Some years ago the light of Buddhi was the noon. Today it is but dawn, glorious though it be. And there will come a time when the light of Nirvana will be but dawn, because I shall know another noon. It is because I live for the moment in the eternal that I can thus preserve my balance. I can perceive no ultimate noonday, even though I can perceive no other noonday than Nirvana. I look back upon glorious dawns and upon glorious noondays. I see before me other noondays before which this nirvanic noonday itself must pale into a dawn. Is there no limit to growth? None that I can perceive. And if I talk of dawns and noondays, are there also evenings, eventides, glorious evenings, evenings no less wonderful than the dawns, with light as beautiful as the light of dawn, as the light of noontime? I think there are. There are no nights, perhaps, at least no blackness, but there comes from time to time a stillness, a hush, which is the silence of a consummation. There comes the hush, the silence, the stillness, just before a birth into a new region of light, just before a new dawn. It is not that the noonday light has lessened, but that a light more glorious still is beginning to shed its refulgence upon a lesser light, so that it is as if a noontime had turned to evening by reason of contrast with the greater glory to be. And in that evening, in that hush which is the shadow of a greater glory, the neophyte gathers up reverently the powers he has gained, to use them in the conquest of the new kingdom of light about to appear above the horizon. All is light. A new meaning to the ancient Egyptian exhortations: look for the light, follow the light, perceive and learn to be at one with the light in all things. I look upon the world. I see the world in terms of light, divine light in manifestation in man light, in rock light, in tree light, in creature light. All is light, a blinding glory at the centre, translated into colour light, into sound light, into form light, into substance light, as it descends into ever-increasing manifestation. At the circumference, light as we know it in the manifested universe, light expressed in innumerable ways, at the centre that glory which is beyond all form, all colour, all substance. Yet the circumference is but the centre externalized, so there is the blinding glory everywhere, the divine light, the blazing seed of futurity in each individual thing in every kingdom. The light seed unfolds its essence, its being, and becomes a world, a universe. In each kingdom of nature, 7 great pathways of light, potential in each kingdom in the beginning, unfolding into glorious fruition at the close. I see the diamond, the ruby, the emerald, the sapphire, kings of the mineral kingdom, superb in the perfection of their colours. Yet at the bottom these glories exist imprisoned, slowly being released through the evolutionary process until they stand free and splendid as the kingdom's jewels. May I quote here a beautiful passage from Ruskin's The Ethics of the Dust, in which he describes the glorious pathway of evolution in the mineral kingdom, the light in prison becoming the light free, thence to enter into higher tabernacles, to tread pathways no less glorious and virtually identical in process. A pure or holy state of anything is that in which all its parts are helpful or consistent. The highest and first law of the universe, and the other name of life, is therefore help. The other name of death is separation. Government and cooperation are in all things and eternally the laws of life. Anarchy and competition eternally and in all things the laws of death. Perhaps the best, the most familiar example we could take of the nature and power of consistence will be that of the possible changes in the dust we tread on. Exclusive of animal decay, we can hardly arrive at a more absolute type of impurity than the mud or slime of a damp overtrodden path in the outskirts of an industrial manufacturing town. I do not say mud of the road, because that is mixed with animal refuse, but take merely an ounce or two of the blackest slime of a beaten footpath on a rainy day near an industrial manufacturing town. That slime we shall find in most cases composed of clay or brick dust, which is burnt clay, mixed with soot, a little sand and water. All these elements are at helpless war with each other and destroy reciprocally each other's nature and power, competing and fighting for place at every tread of your foot. Sand squeezing out the clay, and clay squeezing out water, and soot meddling everywhere and defiling the whole. Let us suppose that this ounce of mud is left in perfect rest, and that its elements gather together, like to like, so that their atoms may get into the closest relations possible. Let the clay begin. Ridding itself of all foreign substance, it gradually becomes a white earth, already very beautiful and fit, with help of congealing fire, to be made into the finest porcelain and painted on and be kept in kings' palaces. But such artificial consistence is not its best. Leave it still quiet to follow its own instinctive unity, and it becomes not only white but clear, not only clear but hard, not only clear and hard, but so set that it can deal with light in a wonderful way, and gather out of it the loveliest blue rays, only refusing the rest. We call it then a sapphire. Such being the consummation of the clay, we give similar permission of quiet to the sand. It also becomes first a white earth, then proceeds to grow clear and hard, and at last arranges itself in mysterious, infinitely fine parallel lines, which have the power of reflecting, not merely the blue rays, but the blue, green, purple and red rays in the greatest beauty in which they can be seen through any hard material whatsoever. We call it then an opal. In next order, the soot sets to work. It cannot make itself white at first, but instead of being discouraged, tries harder and harder, and comes out clear at last, and the hardest thing in the world. And for the blackness that it had, obtains in exchange the power of reflecting all the rays of the sun at once in the vividest blaze that any solid thing can shoot. We call it then a diamond. Last of all, the water purifies or unites itself, contented enough if it only reach the form of a dewdrop, but if we insist on its proceeding to a more perfect consistence, it crystallizes into the shape of a star. And for the ounce of slime which we had by political economy of competition, we have, by political economy of cooperation, a sapphire, an opal and a diamond, set in the midst of a star of snow. I have asked you to hear that because I would have you gain at least one grave and enduring thought. The seeming trouble, the unquestionable degradation of the elements of the physical earth, must passively wait the appointed time of their repose or their restoration. The human clay, now trampled and despised, will not be, cannot be, knit into strength and light by accidents or ordinances of unassisted fate. By human cruelty and iniquity it has been afflicted. By human mercy and justice it must be raised, and, in all fear of questioning of what is or is not the real message of creation or of revelation, you may assuredly find perfect peace if you are resolved to do that which your spiritual development requires. In every kingdom it is the same. The free, time after time realizing its imprisonment because it has conquered its kingdom, and bursting its bonds afresh, that a still mightier and more splendid freedom may be achieved. The flower of every kingdom, an unfolded colour glory, sound glory, substance glory, form glory, passing thence to win a nobler freedom, Of course, the word imprisonment is hardly accurate, for there is probably little, if any, sense of imprisonment until the prison doors are about to be opened, that the soul may enter into a bondage less restricted. Fortunately for us, we generally see our prisons only as we leave them. Until then, a prison is an opportunity. Let us beware of so missing our opportunities that bondage takes their place and a veritable prison house closes in upon us.